I'm Tim Dekker. I'm an architect. I've been working as an architect for about 12 years now. I also previously trained as an actuary. I have experience in management consultant and risk management for major global financial companies. My expertise as an architect is in healthcare buildings, educational buildings, public buildings. Reducing your carbon can be done in a number of ways: constructing lightly, reducing the amount of materials in your buildings, but also choosing the right materials. And timber is naturally one of those choices, because timber contains sequestrated carbon, so carbon locked up, and it's a renewable resource. And if done properly, it allows you to reduce your carbon footprint of the construction industry. So one of the concerns that I have is that there appears not to be a level playing field between timber, steel, and concrete, where the insurance industry has given the green light to steel and concrete, but has given the red light to timber. From my perspective, I see that there are problems not just with the insurance industry. There are problems with the construction industry, which have been exposed by Grenfell, and there are problems with the UK building regulations, which, for example, are not aligned with the interest of insurers. The UK building regulations set the standards for protecting life safety, or are calibrated to achieving a life safety standard so that people can get out of a building alive and safely in case of a fire, for example. Insurers want to protect their property. So if you build to the UK, the minimum regulatory standards, you don't have an adequate amount of protection, for example. So the conversations also need to be held with regulators as to clarifying what they mean by the regulations. We need to build to a better standard than just building regulations. We probably need industry to come together to develop those standards and come to agreement on minimum standards, in particular in this case for timber constructions. And those standards would not just be for design. They ought to be also for construction, monitoring that the actual process of putting buildings together, the design is followed and that minimum standards are upheld. And we clearly need standards for maintenance of buildings. Once a building is in use, one of the major hazards is moisture ingress. And the companies that manage buildings and their workforces need to have adequate training to identify potential problems and be authorized to resolve them quickly. And those resolutions may often involve insurance companies. And so that process also requires attention to make sure that that happens swiftly. Industry coming together requires industry to see a common, to all appreciate there's a common goal and understand what the impediments to them achieving insurance at commercially attractive terms is. At the moment, I mentioned there are a number of areas where there are a lack of standards, so it's in design, in construction, and in maintenance and use. I don't think there is a clear consensus across all the players in industry, or a clear appreciation across all players in the industry that these are all the areas that need to be considered. Well, I think there's a lack of appreciation of where risk lies. There appears to be a tremendous emphasis on fire and fire risk, and fire risk catches the headlines, but the risks that don't catch the headlines, such as moisture ingress and damage from moisture, we don't see that, but that tallies up. I understand that tallies up and causes the majority of losses of insurance companies. So we need to understand the risks across the spectrum. There is very little difference between the approaches of fire engineers in the UK to timber and fire. I understand they generally agree. 90% of their message is in alignment, but I understand it's where there are differences, those get picked on, and I think it's really as the industry needs to present itself as a unified face to the outside world, whether it be to the insurers or to the regulators, and to clearly state the message about the safety of timber construction, and demonstrate that and quantify that. I am very hopeful that we will see more use of timber in construction, simply because there's so many people looking at it at the moment. We are seeing the timber associations, the various timber trade bodies, putting more attention into the weak points and identifying where the blockers are. We are seeing the fire engineering profession converging and understanding that a clear and consistent message needs to be made. And we are seeing the need for government to cooperate more, to provide a regulatory environment that encourages sustainable building products. And of course, we have alternative risk transfer mechanisms, alternative means for accessing capital to protect companies financially through ART solutions. And I understand that those have historically been used in similar situations where industries are stressed by the lack of insurance. And so I'm quite confident that a solution exists.